Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new video at Beyond the Cloud. Today we are going to talk about S3, Simple Storage Service and its lifecycle. So when it comes to storage in AWS, first thing that comes to our mind is S3, a storage service where you can store anything you want. Recently, AWS released default encryption as well to be incorporated in every object while creation. So it is very secure as well. In general, the S3 availability is 11 nines. So if you don't know what we are talking about, we will talk about it more. Just wait. Now, one thing comes to our mind when to delete the object that is piling up in S3. So this is not only piling up, it also incurs some costs. From a single account perspective, it's manageable. But what if we are working in an organization? So AWS has a very nice feature called Lifecycle of S3. We can schedule what happens to the object which is infrequently accessed. We can store it somewhere else and access it whenever necessary. Like a storage room in our house, we only keep certain things there to be accessed rarely. We will go through it today and we will configure it from scratch. If you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe, like, share this video and let me know in the comment section how do you feel about this video. So let's go and create the S3 lifecycle. Welcome to the section on Amazon S3. Amazon S3 is a main building block of AWS storage service. Amazon S3 is an object store just like a regular file system that you have on your computer, but is indefinitely scaling, or as AWS advertises it. There is no limit to the amount of data that you can store on S3. Of course, there are limitations on object level, but not on a bucket level. This is mainly used for backup and storage services. So one example might be that Siemens uses 6 TB of log data every day to store on Amazon S3. So just imagine the volume over a year. Also used for static website hosting, which is very easy. Just a few clicks and that's it. Amazon S3 also used for archiving, disaster recovery, data lake architecture, and many more. Remember, S3 is a global service, but buckets are regional level. There are prices associated with S3 service for data transfer. You pay all the bandwidth into and out of S3 except for the following. Data transfer out to the internet for the first 100 GB per month aggregated across all AWS services and region. Except there are two regions that you don't have to pay, is that China and government cloud, gov cloud, that is US gov cloud. Data transfer in from the internet, data transfer between S3 buckets in the same region, data transfer from an AWS S3 bucket to an AWS service within the same AWS region as the S3 bucket, and data transfer out to Amazon CloudFront. So for this, you don't have to pay anything. S3 bucket must be unique across all the AWS account in all the AWS region within a partition. You just cannot create a bucket named test, cause might have somebody already created it, but who knows, you might be lucky. S3 supports max object size of 5 TB. If you want to store more than 5 TB data in your S3 bucket, you have to use multi-part upload. Amazon S3 demands to be 11 nines durability, which means there is a single object lost in every 10,000 years. Amazon S3, this is the life cycle model. This also we will talk about in details in this lecture, where we will be creating a bucket, and then from the bucket we will create a life cycle model, that one object, and we will transfer the object part by part after a couple of days. So we will also do that. But what does this life cycle means? This life cycle means, suppose you want to upload an object in a bucket, and that object can reside in the bucket for long years, and you might forget about it. And suppose in after 90 days or after 180 days, you don't need the object anymore, or you need that, but you don't need it frequently. So where to store that object? You don't want to store that object in your main bucket. You can store the object in your main bucket, but if you have lots of object already in your bucket, that will overwhelm the bucket itself. So it's always a good idea to use archiving or the lifecycle model. So what is lifecycle is that when you create a bucket when you create an object, for the first time, it is a standard object or standard S3 bucket. The object is created, and after that you can tell Amazon that, hey, I need to move this bucket after 30 days to standard infrequent access zone. So what is standard infrequent access zone? Is that this is a long-lived data which is infrequently accessed. So you don't want to use the data every day in your life, but maybe after 30 days for 1 hour you want to see the data, how it looked like back 30 days. You can store it in standard infrequent access and access it whenever required. Suppose you don't want to do that as well, then we have intelligent tiering. So intelligent tiering is a long-lived data with changing or unknown access pattern. So you don't know if you are accessing the data after 30 days, maybe 60 days. So it's always better to use that intelligent tiering. Then we have S3 one zone infrequent access, and this is mainly one. So if or you are already seeing that this is one zone, right? So this is not so much critical data you should give to this particular one zone infrequent access, because there might be data losses. If your data is not that much critical, you can still save the data in one zone infrequent access. Next comes the Glacier. Glacier has a three flavor: Glacier instant retrieval, Glacier flexible, and Glacier deep archive. So suppose for archiving you don't need the fast access to the data, so you can move all your data to Glacier and Glacier instant retrieval. So instant retrieval is much easier to retrieve within minutes or hours. But if you want, suppose to retrieve the data after 12 hours, you decide to have the data in your machine, you can use Glacier flexible, which is less costly. And also we have Glacier deep archive, which actually we store the data, that kind of data where we don't need that much access to the data, and it can be archived where the processing where the retrieval time is also high, and it's not that much important, but you still need the data maybe after 3 years or 4 years. We can move the data into Glacier deep archive. Now there are two things where the lifecycle rules, how to apply the lifecycle rules. We can call it transition actions or the expiration actions. So transition actions is something that we will move the data after 30 days and to standard infrequent access zone, suppose, and after 30 days and after 60 days maybe to move the data into intelligent tiering, and maybe after 90 days to move to Glacier. This is transition actions. And there are another options, that is expiration actions. That means we can delete the data entirely after 365 days. There is no need to move the data one by one. Rather, we can delete it if it is not important. So this is how we can do it. Also, AWS provides a good S3 analytics service, which will do analysis for you on the object that has in the S3 bucket. What it will do, it will give you a report in CSV format that you can see and check your objects that it has not been accessed for this many days, and it will give recommendation to move the object to maybe standard infrequent access or intelligent tiering. So we can also do that. So in this particular lecture, what we will do, we will create first an S3 bucket and also show you how a bucket looks like and how to upload a object into a bucket, and then we will configure a lifecycle rule into that particular bucket. So let's go and check it out. So right now I'm in my Amazon console, and let's go ahead and create our first S3 bucket. So from the console, you can search either S3 here as a service. You will get the service here in top, or if you have already used it, it will show in the recently visited section. So I have already used it, so this is why it is showing up. Anyway, let's go to this path. I searched S3, and from that S3 came up, and this is my S3 console. So in the S3 console, you will be, so one thing to see here is that the S3 is a global service. Here on top you will see it's showing up as global. So S3 is a global service. Now let's go ahead and create a bucket. If we click on create bucket, it will show me, it will take me to the create bucket configuration, and here we can create a bucket. Within this, we can see we have to only give the bucket name, and that's it. All other things AWS has already been filled up. So as the bucket is regional service, so we have put up this North Virginia or US East 1. We will do it here. And then you can copy settings from an existing bucket. This is optional. So if you have already some other bucket in your account, you can just copy the bucket configuration from that. We will not do that as we don't have any bucket. Now the object ownerships. So this is in detail. Maybe this is not a short thing that we can discuss here. This is access control list. This is a fine grained control list who can actually access this bucket in a readable or writable format. If you want to know more about access control list, let me know in the comment section. I will make another video out of it. But right now, we are not doing anything here. Okay, next one is very important one from a security standpoint, uh, whether this bucket will be available publicly or not. So in any situation, we should not expose a bucket publicly. So that's why we will put that block all public access. So this bucket is not publicly available. We will tick this mark. So this has already been ticked out. So we don't have to do anything here. And this is where the fun part is, bucket versioning. So we will enable this bucket versioning. Right now it is disabled. So why it is required? Because on the next topic we will be discussing about lifecycle policy. So to use lifecycle policy or to enable lifecycle or to create any lifecycle rule, the bucket versioning on an object level needs to be enabled. So I don't want to do it on an object level. So we can do it on a bucket level policies. So tags are also optional. You can give the tags. Right now I'm not giving anything. Then the default encryption. So this is a new improvement that is done by AWS, that right now whatever object that we will be uploading in a bucket, it will be automatically encrypted by S3 managed keys. That is SSE S3. You cannot upload any object without encryption. So previously you could have, because the encryption was not enabled by default. So couple of objects might not be encrypted. It is unencryptedly uploaded. But after maybe March or February, AWS has released that whatever object will be uploaded in S3 bucket, it will be automatically encrypted. And so right now in the advanced settings, if we see, it's only that object lock. We don't want to do anything here, and this tutorial is not about object locking. So we will not do anything there. So what we will do, we will give a bucket name. Now remember from the theory part or the slides, that bucket name needs to be unique all over AWS world for a particular group. So in our tutorial, we will try to give a test bucket. I am pretty sure anyone already have created named test bucket, and this will not take. So it shows that bucket with the same name already exists. So someone already have created a text bucket, and that is very common. So what we will do is we will give a hyphen and some random name, or maybe the channel name. So this I hope must be available, test hyphen beyond the cloud, and then we will create the bucket. Yes, it is available. So right now what we can see, that our bucket is created and it is in US East 1. Bucket and objects are not public. We have disabled that, and the creation time it shows. This is fine. So our bucket is created. Now as the bucket is created, we can store object inside of it. So let's go inside the bucket and see what information we can grab out of it. So if you go inside the bucket, we see the first tab is objects. Right now there are no objects inside of the bucket, so it is empty. If we go to properties, we will be able to see in which region this bucket is, the ARN, Amazon resource name, the ARN of the bucket, and the creation date. The bucket versioning currently it is disabled. I think we told that we will enable this one, so let's enable this one. Save changes. Okay, right now the bucket versioning is enabled, and multi-factor authentication delete. So if you want to delete a bucket, you need a MFA. Right now it is disabled, so we don't need that one. And tags we did not give, and encryption, default encryption is already enabled. This one, this details is not required anymore. And then permissions, if we see that buckets and objects are not public, this is what we have selected here, block all public access. And right now there are no bucket policies. This is also not relevant to this tutorial, but we can grab out of the information here. We can also see a couple of metrics like the total bucket size, the number of objects, what are the read write, whatever has been done to the bucket. We can also see that. On the management section, this is the most important part. We will be doing here is that the lifecycle rule, this we will configure in our next part. Also, we can replicate the bucket object from one bucket to another, from one region to another, uh, and that's all we can do. And right now nothing is important. What we can do is we can go to object and maybe upload an object there and let's see how it looks like. So we will click on object, and upon click on the upload button, we will be able to see that there are a couple of things we can upload. We can add files or add folder. What we will do, we will directly add files, and in my desktop I have this logo uploaded and I will upload it. So for uploading, nothing else is required. What we can do is we can go ahead and click on upload. So if whenever we will click on upload, the bucket will be uploaded with the size that it will show you. So the object size is 46.1 kilobyte and 100% uploaded. So we will close this one, and we can see that in my bucket one object has been created, and the object creation date it will show the file type and the storage class. Right now, if you remember, we saw that whatever the new object will be created, it will be created in standard S3 bucket until and unless we do something with it. So this is in standard class. Now let's go inside this object and see what is there. If we go inside this particular object, we can see that the region is US East 1. The last modified date is this one. This is the time when we uploaded the bucket, uploaded the object. Sorry, the size of the object, the type, and the name of the object. Then the S3 URI. This is very much important if you want to work with this object from CLI. I will also show you how to do that. Then the ARN of the object and the object URL. So what we can do is we can also see this type of things, and the object one important part is the encryption. As we see that the bucket level encryption is already enabled, so the object is also encrypted with S3 managed keys. So this is from the properties. From the permission section, we did not assign any ACLs till now to the object, so the ACL we did there is nothing much to it. And for versioning, if so as we have already enabled the versioning from bucket level, so the objects are also versioned. So right now this version and this version ID is under standard class. Cool. Now as my object is uploaded, if we want to see the object, how to do that? So there are two options. One is copy the URL, copy the URI, and then grab the particular object from AWS CLI and copy it in our local and open it. Otherwise, we can download it from here, from this UI, and we can open it, or we can directly click on open and open it. So what happens if we click on open? So if we click on open, we can see the nice logo here that is generated. Now we go back to our bucket and see that there is also one object URL that this one can we access this one? Let's check. I have copied that access denied error. I'm getting some access denied error. So the object will not be available over this public URL, that is HTTPS. This is not available, and if I just type in this URL, AWS doesn't know that whether I am authorized to access this particular object or not. Whenever I am clicking on this object open, so it is checking my user ID and password that I have been logged in to this particular account, and AWS knows that yes, I am authorized to access this particular object, so it will open this logo for me. So that's it from a user perspective, how a bucket is created and how a object is created. Now in the next section, I will show you how can you access this bucket and object from AWS CLI. Right now I am inside my terminal, and I am inside this AWS CLI folder. And I wanted to show you how to use this command line interface and access the AWS S3 bucket and objects. So first of all, what we need to do, we need to configure our access key and secret key to our AWS CLI. So to configure that, there is this command AWS configure, and if you give this command, it will ask you to give access ID and secret ID. So I have already done that. I will not do it again. But you can paste it your access ID here. Upon giving the enter key, it will ask for secret key. You will have to give it here. Then the default region name. The bucket region is US East 1. So I am using this US East 1. And then the default output format. I did not give anything. And then enter. So everything is configured. So if you want to do it, you can do it in this way. Now, very important part is here that whatever the access key or secret key, you will give it here for the particular user. That user must have permission to access this S3 service. Otherwise, it will get an access denied error. So if I type in AWS S3 ls, this command, what it does, it actually lists all the S3 bucket in my AWS account. So if I give enter, yes, this is my bucket. So test beyond the cloud, this is my bucket name, and it shows that yes, the bucket exists and the bucket name is test beyond the cloud. Now if we go back to console and S3 bucket, we see that our bucket name is test beyond the cloud, and inside that bucket we have this object, right? So remember I told you that this S3 URI, this is required to grab the object out of the S3 bucket. If we are using S3 AWS CLI, and if we are authorized to do that. So I will copy this URI and then type in AWS S3, then CP means copy, and what I will copy? I will copy this object and where in my current directory. If I give enter, I see that it has been downloaded. So download S3, this one is successful. So what I will go ahead and I will click on, I will show it in my folder. So this is my folder and this is the one, the object, and it is currently downloaded. So this is the command and this is how you do it. So there are a couple of other commands as well for S3, like move, pre-sign, remove bucket, remove object. So you can also check it out in AWS documentation, but for any basic level, basic understanding, this two is very much important. So let's go ahead and create some lifecycle rule now. So to create lifecycle, I have used another bucket. You can use the same bucket if you want, but I have used another bucket with the same configuration. If we go inside the bucket, right now there are no objects because it is a different one. And what we can see is in the properties, the versioning is enabled and everything is same. We didn't do anything about it. So what we are going to do here, we are going to create a lifecycle here. So to create a lifecycle, we have to come to management, and under management, there are lifecycle rules. To create a rule, we have to click on create lifecycle rule. So we click on that, and first of all, we need to give a rule name. So the rule name might be, I will give it as lifecycle rule, as simple as that. Now this is the rule name, and after we give the rule name, we need to define whether the rule applies to one of the filter, like one particular object, or we want to apply the rule for all objects in the bucket. To keep it simple, I will apply this one, the second one, where this rule will be applied for each and every object that will be uploaded in that particular bucket. So this one, I will select that I acknowledge this one. This is fine. Now comes the most important part, is the move the current version lifecycle rule actions. Like when we create the rule, what this rule will do. So the first option is move the current version of the objects between storage classes. That means if I upload one particular object, that is the current version of the object. I did not do anything with that object yet. If I delete the object, the delete marker will be there because the bucket is version. As I did not do anything, so that particular object at that time will be the current version of the object. So we want to operate that current version of the object now. So I will select this one So the move current version of the object between storage classes. Now let's go to our slide and compare it a bit so that it's a bit understandable. So if we see our slide, the second one, we remember that this is the standard class. Whenever the object will be first created, it will reside in the standard class. And after that, we can move the object from standard to standard infrequent access. And then maybe after a couple of days, we can move this object to intelligent tiering, then one zone infrequent access, then Glacier flexible, and then deep archive. So right now, if we upload any object, it will be in standard object. It will be a standard object. So I want to move my standard object now. Suppose after 30 days, I want to move my standard object to standard infrequently access because I have done the operation with the object. Now I want to move it to infrequent access. To move it to infrequent access, we need to select this one about the current version of the object and then give it to 30 days. Now, important part is here. If you try to give like 1 days or 7 days, I really love this part from Amazon that they also, the UI is very user friendly. So if you give 7 days, it will already show you like you cannot give 7 days because the minimum the object needs to reside in S3 bucket is the standard version is 30 days. So you need to the object needs to stay like 30 days, then you can move to standard infrequent access. This is fine. So suppose my bucket is there, my object is in my bucket, and after 30 days I scheduled it to go to infrequent access. So this is my infrequent. Now my object is in infrequent access. Now what happens after 30 days? Now I will add another transition where I will say that okay, so after 30 days it goes to standard infrequent access. Then another 30 days I will move it to intelligent tiering. So remember, intelligent tiering does not need any minimum storage duration. That means I can move this object after 31 days to intelligent tiering, but let's not do that. Let's do it after 30 days. It will automatically move to infrequent access. Okay, sorry. This is from date of creation. So it should be 60 days. Let's give it as 60. Yeah. So after the object is created, after 30 days, it will be standard infrequent access. Then after 60 days, it will be intelligent tiering. Fine. Now my object is in intelligent tiering. Now I want to move it to one zone infrequent access because after 60 days, the accessibility of the object is less. So what I will do, I will add another transition and maybe one frequent access. So if you open up, we see that the minimum storage duration is 30 days is required. So what I will give is 90 days. So after 90 days, it will be moved to in one zone infrequent access. Now my object is infrequent access. Now comes Glacier. So what happens after 90 days of the object creation? I will select Glacier flexible retrieval, and then I will select it as 180 days because after 90 days it will go to flexible retrieval, and then we can move it after 180 days to flexible retrieval, and then after maybe 270 days or 360 days, maybe after 1 year, I want to move it to Glacier deep archive. So if you see here, we cannot move from one zone infrequent access directly to Glacier flexible retrieval. So what we can do is from intelligent tiering, we can directly move it to Glacier instant retrieval, not from one zone infrequent access. This is to remember here. So this is the whole lifecycle model of an object that we will create now, and then I have to give that I acknowledge this lifecycle rule. So my first point is done. Now whenever we do that, the current version of the objects between the storage class, what happens to the non-current version of the objects? Then I select this one, move the non-current version of the objects between storage class, and I come down and I select, suppose I will not give so many transition because it is a non-current version. So how for this will it required like days after object become non-current. So how do you define your object to be a non-current one? So I will give it as 90 days. So suppose after 90 days I decide that my objects are non-current version. This is not current one. And after 90 days, maybe the non-current version of the object will be transitioned to standard infrequent access. Fine. Now the expiration. So after how many days do you want to expire the current version of the object? So for expiration date, I will select as the current. So as per this one, I am selecting that after 90 days, my current version of the object become non-current. So maybe after 120 days, it will become, I will expire this object. But here is the catch. The expiration of the object needs to be minimum 365 days. This is what is constraints here. So what we have to give is minimum 365 days that you have, the object needs to be stay in S3 bucket before automatically deleted. You can delete it manually, but if you need to be lifecycle to comes into picture, then it needs to be 365 days. This is the 1 year timeline. Now go back here and we select that permanently delete non-current version of the object. We select this one, permanently delete non-current version of the object. So after 90 days, it will become the non-current version, object, and after how many days you want to delete that non-current version. Maybe I will select it as 180 days. So after 180 days, I will delete my non-current version of the object. And this is optional number of the newer versions to retain. So I will not give this one because my newer version will automatically be transitioned to the other storage classes. So I don't need to retain this one. Then this one, the last one is the delete expired object delete markers or incomplete multi-part upload. So if you are uploading one object in a multi-part basis, because suppose you have one more than 5 TB of data you want to upload in an S3 bucket, you have to upload it in a multi-part uploads. So if you select this one, then it will ask me after so can we delete the incomplete multi-part uploads. So if we select this one, this will also be done, but it needs a minimum days, like after how many days it needs to be deleted. So if you see here, there is no minimum criteria, so we can give, so maybe after 90 days as well, it will be deleted. So this is my whole lifecycle rule. Now what we have to do, we have to click on this create rule, and it will show you here about the transition process. So let's go through the transition process once again. So here is my current version, day 0, the object is created or uploaded, and then after 30 days it will go to infrequent access, and then 60 days intelligent tiering, then after 3 months or 90 days one zone infrequent access, then after 6 months or 180 days move Glacier flexible retrieval, and after 1 year it will be moved to deep archive, and then after 365 days my object expired because it is already in deep archive, so I can delete this one. So it depends on from company to company. Some companies have the constraints to keep the object at least for 2 years or 3 years, then you can very well change this value. And for this one is the non-current version. After 0 days, the object become non-current is the day 90, and the newest non-current versions are retained, and all other non-current versions move to standard infrequent access, and after 180 days, our non-current versions are permanently deleted. So I don't need the non-current version. So this is all from the lifecycle rule. Now we will go ahead and create the rule. Now my lifecycle rule is created. Here, so it will show you that this is my lifecycle rule, and it will show you the rule name, the status is enabled, and the scope is for entire bucket, and the current transition versions are showing up here. The non-current transitions also showing up here, and incomplete multi-part uploads we have selected as permanently delete. If you see the lifecycle rule here, it will show you the same lifecycle rule that we have selected, and that's it. The status is enabled. So if we upload any object right now, after 30 days, we will be able to see that the object has been moved to standard infrequent access. But as for this tutorial, we cannot just wait for 30 days and check it out. But please create this rule and then let me know in the comment section if it worked for you. If not, that also let me know. Then maybe I can help you why it did not went well or why it did not work out. So this is how we create a lifecycle rule, and this is very much important to create a lifecycle rule because S3 somehow become costly if you go if you do not track your objects by day. Because if you pile up your objects in a bucket and if you forget about it, then you are paying money which is not at all required. So the objects that is not required, we must keep it in a different place rather than our main bucket. It will also give you some price component, the lesser price you will give. So for price, I have in my slide this price component here. So we can go through this one where I will open this and I will show you the price data for each and every classes. So if you see here, this is for US East region. So for S3 standard, we have to pay this amount of money for first 50 TB upload. Then if you see after this one, intelligent tiering, the cost is very less. So why if I am not using any particular object, why not keep them in intelligent tiering or infrequent access, which is also another less option, or Glacier, we can move it to Glacier as well. Why not using these options and retrieve it whenever required in future, so that I can pay less about for my S3 bucket objects. So if you see here, S3 deep archive, the price is very less compared to the S3 standard one. So if we are not using an object for maybe after 365 days or after 3 years, we are not at all using the object, why not move all objects to deep archive, and maybe whenever required we can retrieve it. So this is all from the lifecycle rule of S3. I hope you liked it and you enjoyed this video. I hope you get some knowledge about it. So if you like it, please like, share and subscribe my channel, and let me know in the comment section what you like and what you did not. Maybe we can improve that in future as well. So I will be back with another video. Till then, bye bye and take care.